So I'd like to introduce myself. Thank you for having me back. We've met, I think. Okay, so it's funny, this morning I was finding little black ants in the kitchen and getting rid of those, and then I felt like a homicidal maniac. So it's one of those things like, yes, this is what it's like, the daily little dilemmas we face in trying to peacefully coexist or find that right balance. But that's not what we're talking about. It sort of is. So one of the times before we talked about and reflected on the healing power of our presence. We've looked at that before, but today it's we're going to shift the perceptual lens a little bit for another way that our power, the power and healing of our presence, is not just important, but is actually needed. So how many of you have heard the saying, we were made for these times? You were made for these times. Yeah? Yeah. So you're born for these times. We're born at the right time. So if, as far as, in terms of the unity awareness too, the right timing, the right person, the right place, the right presence, the right journey, right? So good that it's familiar, so you're not going to shoot the messenger, because today I'm here as an ambassador for our planet, the planet that we call home. We talked last time I was here, as a matter of fact, about home and exile. And many people have been exiled from our connection with the planet that we call home, and it's all a shared energy field, like Chief Seattle said. What we do to one part of the web, we do to every part of the web, and we do to ourselves. So what stirred me anew recently was the UN report. The UN recently released an updated report on the state of our beloved planet, and human beings are involved. And then I came across this image. And at first I thought it was a graphic designer's image. I mean, in its own way, it's really very beautiful. And I looked more closely, it's in a GQ article. And the image is actually a picture by David McNew, I think the photographer's name is. And it's one of many images taken last year when California was on fire in various places. So if you imagine, I was gonna bring it with me, and I will gladly share it because there's an article link as well that I'll be mentioning. But if you look at it and imagine behind me as if the whole wall was a picture of hillsides in California at night, a road going through it, trees in the foreground or what remains of them on fire, and little fires everywhere. Everywhere the eye can see, all these little, it's orange glow everywhere, and it's a stark photo. It is in its own way very beautiful, but it's very impacting. I mean, it really has an effect, you know? But it has even more of an effect because, like the UN report, the GQ article was focusing on an invitation or an interview with a fellow who wrote a book called The Uninhabitable Earth. So I promise there's hope and the cause for inspiration at the end of this. But as spiritual warriors, we don't shy from looking at things. Because if we don't look with fierce courage and compassion, we can't be the medicine. We can't tune to the message of how our presence, how our lives contribute to the medicine. So the articles, the interview, that photo, and I lived out there for many years, so I was watching and hearing from friends, I remember, pretty dire, right? It's overwhelming. I can understand how people would prefer cognitive dissonance or to look away or to spiritually bypass. But like I said, we're spiritual warriors. We and our kindreds around the world, we look, we witness, we just don't cling, we don't stay in that state. We then look at how we can become the remedy or the medicine, and I'll spiral back around to that. That's the first image and story. There's another that arose as I was reflecting on this. But it reminded me too, when I was reading those reports and And reading what the author of The Uninhabitable Earth had to say, they were saying very much the similar things prophets have been saying for decades or trying to avert. I remembered, it brought to my mind a vision that I was given in 2004. So imagine with me that you're looking straight ahead at a wide river, right? It's flowing not too fast, but there's a current. Not too far in the distance, there's a bridge from one side to the other. There are a lot of rafts on the river. Some of them have already gone beyond the bridge, but many are still moving toward the bridge. On the right side of the bridge, there's a city, a wasteland, a biodome, not a green or growing thing in sight, and everything outside of the biodome is complete wasteland. On the right or the left side, there's probably what we would call Eden, right? Vibrant, although a contemporary Eden. Bright and vibrant, people living, you can tell by the look on their face, healthfully and harmoniously. Green and growing things and spring blossoms everywhere like we see and we talked about earlier. And it's vibrant. On the bridge, there are teams of people helping people off the rafts onto the bridge before they go past the bridge and not too far in the distance go over the edge of what is a waterfall so deep you can't see the bottom of it. But there are teams of people on the bridge helping people off the rafts onto the bridge and guiding them toward Eden. So all of these are pretty similar in that that's a frightening thing to behold, the more dire reports. But like I said, there's cause for hope and there's cause for inspiration, because all of them concluded, both The Uninhabitable Earth and the UN report, that the one thing that can avert the likely conclusion to the direction we're heading, the mass extinction that's already underway, is transformative change. And this is something that spiritual warriors know very, very well. Right? People who are looking to live in harmony, to explore different ways of living. We experiment, we might do it imperfectly, but we do it because once you are aligned with your heart and your compassion has been opened and our connection with all that is has been restored, and we remember, we know that what we do to the web, we do to ourselves and we do to the whole, for better and for worse, right? So that's where the medicine comes in. So transformative change, and big time, like zero echo and carbon footprint. So major, major change. But we also know that we in this room, other people around this city, the state, the country, other countries, every continent, every island on this planet has spiritual kindreds, our soul team members who have been doing the same thing. Who are doing the same thing. So if we face and look at the UN report, The Uninhabitable Earth, what our prophets have been saying for decades, what we know might be hard to see when we're surrounded by green and blossoms, but we know that a certain part of the culture is unsustainable. So what to do, how not to get caught up in an overwhelm. And that's to remember that one, we're part of a team that's on every continent and every planet or every island and every nation on this earth that we call home. And the one thing that we have in common with every single one of them and every single other being is the fact that we are life and expression, and we share this earth as our home. We're connected with it, we're connected with one another. Whatever we do ripples out as good medicine, and we're not doing it alone. We may not know hundreds of thousands of them. We know each other, we know what we do, we know we practice it every day. And then maybe we renew our commitment. It's not so much doing other things, doing things any differently. There's spiritual practices that we've been doing. The hazard is to fall into complacency and think that we're done with that. But like Vera said and others have said, it's a spiral. We need the reminders. We practice deeply. We're faced with different challenges or changes. We're human beings, we're sensitives who are sensitive to what other people and other beings and the planet might be feeling or sensing or expressing. So it's a constant practice. But as far as how we're medicine, it's through every bit of that practice that we do. What we do is just commit anew, right? Sometimes it's every day for me, you know? And then the change with our blessings, with our loving kindness that we cultivate, with the way that expresses, with the way we tend to plant, with the way we love an animal that's been wounded or a person that's been harmed and traumatized, with every blessing that we put out, with every prayer that we put out, with every kind thing that we do, with every meal that we make, if we're doing it with that sense of loving kindness, centered, like it's a prayer. Everything is a prayer. Paul said, we pray unceasingly. That's what that is, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we say our prayers, but we also be our prayer. So it's not like, you know, oh God, one more thing to add to the list. You know, now I have to save the earth. The earth doesn't need saving, but probably the beings on it could use a little help. But with subtle activism, every prayer, every transformation we've made, every belief, we become more, every belief we become more familiar with, every bit of conditioning that we've inherited, every bit of trauma that we heal, every way that helps us to be a little bit more kind, including to ourselves, be a little bit more compassionate. And that's really just recognizing that that is what and who we are. You know, we are that. We are here to be that, maybe in different ways and different shapes and different colors and different faces and different ages and different styles with different purposes, different missions. That's what and who we are. So whether it's affirmative prayer, we look fiercely and we witness. We bless unrelentingly. May the eyes and ears of their hearts be open. May the eyes and ears of my heart be open. May I be aligned. May I remember who I am. May they remember who they are. I always add with grace because I prefer it be gentle for everyone. Any of us who've probably had less than gentle awakenings or transformations would probably not wish it on anybody. But remembering is pretty key. May the kindness that we are emanate from our very beings. May I recognize the tiny opportunities throughout this day to express this, and knowing that we are all connected. Unity, we're all connected. I know that every little bit of this ripples out, and I intend it to do so, right? These are our daily prayers, every little bit that you do. So it's not about like, oh God, you know, saving the burning earth, and it is. It's just about recommitting, recognizing that we're spiritual warriors, not looking away, not spiritual bypassing, but saying, yeah, that's why we're here. And every prayer I utter, and every blessing I give, and every affirmative prayer, and every time I see this earth whole and healed, and people living joyfully, like the people on the city on the left side of that river, and people being lifted up off of those rafts instead of going under the bridge and over the edge.
It's alive.
It is alive. Spirit speaking. So that's really it. It's about recommitting anew. Like, this is why we're here. To express the love, to express the divinity that we are, to express the kindness. We have the frustrations of every single day and the regular things of living, but those too can be a prayer. You know? Doing them with the intention that I know I'm connected to all things at this time, and may this be healing.
May this be in service to the well-being of this planet and all beings that are on it. A small thing or a big thing, whether we're moved to different action, calling legislators, all of that depends on who we are and how we are. But the power of subtle activism and the power of your cultivated presence and my cultivated presence, which requires the same tending as those plants every day. Watering and fertilizing and nourishing and deadheading. You know? And that brings me to the second image that arose as I contemplated this anew. It's not the first time I've thought about it or reflected on it. Like, oh, wow, you know, how do we deal with that? And that was one that many of you may have seen. Have you ever seen a statue or an image of the goddess, sometimes sitting, but holding the earth right here?
Yeah.
Lovingly, right? And sometimes there might be a cosmic image where it's kind of, she's reaching out over through the cosmos, embracing the earth, but in all of them there's that nurturing, immensely loving, showering blessings. So if you can, for a moment, just connect with that kind of image, because you're an expression of that. Each one of us holds the earth in our loving embrace. Everything on it. We might tend it in little ways that are macrocosm rituals of the effect on the whole. But each one of us holds the earth in that embrace. And when we cultivate that loving kindness, awakening our hearts for that, it affects every single thing in our life. Because we know, right? You're cultivating a vibration of loving kindness. We're getting out of our heads and into our hearts. We can feel that. You might also do mantra or whatever helps kind of get in that zone and get in the heart. Om certainly does. But every time we do that. So what I would ask or invite you is to do that now with an awareness, or begin your day, or dedicate things that it may be also a blessing for this earth and all of the beings on it, that they be well, that we be well. It is our home. And as spiritual warriors and people of spirit and people who are aware that what we do vibrates out into the whole, that we can be the change, that we can be the medicine, that by doing that we can tip perhaps the collective consciousness in the direction of greater consciousness and greater consciousness, awaken hearts, do different things, make different choices, tolerate things less that shouldn't be tolerated. So I invite you into that anew. And if you want to take a moment just now, if you want to close your eyes and just envision that you're that divine, you can see it as the Holy Mother, the Goddess, light, holding the earth in a loving embrace. Feeling your love and gratitude and appreciation for all that you see. Everything around us comes from the earth. The flowers and the trees, the rivers, the water we drink, the air we breathe. The gardens or forests that inspire us, that breathe out their oxygen and breathe in our carbon dioxide, that we are in unified breath with. Beings on the other side of the planet, or the depths of the oceans that we're connected to as well through that energetic field. And with that earth in your arms, feeling the love in your heart, and the love in your heart and your gratitude is reaching out as an energy field and enveloping the earth. And filling you as well. May the earth be well. May all beings on the earth who call it home be well. May we find our way. May we remember who we are. May we express the love we are, and may we remember that every small thing we do in conscious and intentional service to the well-being of this planet that we live on and the shared energy field that expresses in and through all of us is affected by every single prayer and blessing that we give intentionally. So let us nurture it well every day through everything we do, and may that bless and benefit each of us, and everybody who comes in contact with us will be affected by them. I give thanks. Now the love offering.
Thank
In
you.
addition to the love offering,
Would
that
you
you've
like to
just
have
done.
some response to your
Sure,
talk?
absolutely.
Yeah, before that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been coming to me saying that they thought they had friends, and then their friends would do something that was harmful in some way to them. I don't mean physically, but spiritually, or and so they were saying, I guess you can't tell people anything anymore. And that was like 3 or 4 people came to me in 1 week saying that, and asking, how do you handle that trust issue of becoming close with other people and then having them hurt you in some way? And what would your response be?
My response, on one hand, we can't change people. Everybody, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, everyone is an expression of light and the divine. Some of us, like many of us have been, are in very deep forgetting or some level of forgetting, are expressing out of woundedness or trauma. That doesn't make tolerating behavior acceptable or abuse acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives us an understanding and allows us to have compassion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So getting into an argument and telling people how they're wrong and what they need to change, because maybe we've actually done something to affect that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they're just really lost. But that's where I would go right to prayer and blessing as a subtle activism.
Thank you.
And becoming more skillful if we're called to that too. So that we're not as easily triggered by some things. That's the other part of that. But,
When you were speaking and saying that, I was immediately touched by God's voice telling me that we need to be more aware of people speaking from their fear and pain.
Yeah.
That oftentimes things are said as a knee-jerk response. You can say something and then as a knee-jerk response, someone comments back to us from a place of
I mean, sometimes we have to maintain healthy boundaries as well, or tell somebody that's not acceptable behavior, but we love and understand. I mean, it's the line between spiritual bypass or spiritual abuse and healthy is really, really thin. But, Jerry?
I want to thank you for the message, because I need to be doing passive activism that you're talking about, setting our intentions out. Sometimes it gets discouraging because it seems so overwhelming of a negative thing, but it helps me to remember that it doesn't need a majority for critical mass to change the race consciousness. That one small light in the corner could light up a whole realm of
That's
darkness.
exactly it.
So, it's helpful to remember that. And I thank you for the reminder, because I listen to too much talk radio as I drive around. I get
That'll
overwhelmed
do
by
it.
the negativity in the world.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear.
There's a lot of fear out there.
Yeah.
And I,
We do.
it's hard to remember that it's my responsibility to bring to light.
Well, we also live in a culture that has sort of long forgotten things like energy, healing, and our interconnectedness, and we're remembering that now, but still there's that conditioning that the only action that counts is visible and a big action,
Another thing that
and
helps
only
me
certain
too
things
is
are
that
action.
I recognize what we see in the world today is the pains of birth, the new birth of new consciousness. It's our job to bring that consciousness in.
Right. And just hold the, whatever we do, you know, with unity, the affirmative prayer, holding the vision. I mean, there's a lot out of the Jesus tradition or other spiritual traditions, and they are so similar at their core when it comes to these kind of things and practices. But yeah, it's a helpful reminder for me as well, you know, reminding myself that it does matter, that how I start the day, the intentions I bring into things, how I approach and tend to the things that are before me, can ripple out. And then I can also do other things if I'm so moved, or speak out or write out or whatever. But yeah, you're welcome. I appreciated it too, because it definitely came up with that image as a message to share today. All right, ready to move on?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Liana?
The Course in Miracles is so clear when it says everything is a call for love.
Yes.
And I remember in conversations with God, that's what he said too. You would be surprised what you call, you know, something evil or desperate action by a person. And they said, really, even that was out of love, or a call for love, as you say. And it's interesting, how he worded
It can
that.
help us understand. Yeah, and the Course in Miracles, one of my favorites that stuck with me all these years is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. You know, but we're still human beings in bodies that need to tend things and do things and act on things. So that's important, you know, to be the love in whatever way that we can, and to heal what's in us and what's around us to the degree that it's presented itself. And that's pretty powerful. Yeah, it's powerful. So you're all on the AH team, the Avert and Heal team.
Yes, I like that.
This is your mission if you choose to accept it, but you already did, really. Are you with me here? No, it's good. It's good. Okay, I'm going to try this again. Okay, so now it's time for the love offering.
I invite you to sing with me as I drum. We're going to do vocal toning, which is you can start with humming, like just to get your body vibrating. Well, okay, I didn't mean now, but so and then I want you to you can close your eyes if you want, and just open up yourself, allow spirit to move your voice however it wants to go. You might start with an om, or an om. It could be high or low, and it could even be both. It could fluctuate. Okay, it could flow. So just let spirit move you. You could use other sounds like a, ah, heya, heya, heya. Anything you want, really. Anything except words, maybe, because I like to get away from words when I do this, so that we can get out of our heads and get into our body and our hearts and our souls and our spirit, okay? So let's just see what happens. So we're going to just listen to each other, too, and you can respond to each other's sounds if you want. You could join someone else or harmonize with them, or have like a sort of like a conversation where you go back and forth. So we can have fun with this, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, that's
All right.
good.
Oh
That's like, there's a name for it, harmonic? Is there something called harmonics or harmonic resonance? There's a name for that. People get into it. They have groups for it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah, take a deep breath and just let the vibration move through your body. If you have anything stuck, the vibration will just help you move through it.
Yeah.
We can still feel that vibrating. I can feel it vibrating whenever I
Yeah.
tone like that.
And when
Yeah,
you're drumming
toning.
too.
Good.
Well, because I was drumming, I really feel it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I feel like the buzzing in the hands, as if I was drumming. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes if there's a stuck place or kink too, you can really feel it as the vibrations moving through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prayer request back here.
Okay, so we bless our love offerings. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, all that I have, and all that I am. So it is.
So gracefully, the power of now is always perfect, nothing to me than who you are. The power of now flows on so easily. Be willing to let go of everything you think you need to know. Oh, be strong enough to let go of everything you think you need to control. For everything goes away. Let everything wash away. The power of the power of love is ever flowing, connecting the soul to the world. The power of love unfolds so peacefully. Be willing to
peace on earth time. How appropriate is that? Oh, we have one more thing.
And then another
We are still
announcement.
accepting renewals of membership if you haven't done so yet.
Go ahead.
And then there's announcement I just noticed in the Congregational bulletin, church bulletin. Tonight, 5 o'clock is Jazz Vespers. It's a wonderful thing to go to. I've gone to a bunch of them. The 5 says 5:19. Today's the 19th? 5 o'clock, and they have live music, prayer, and it's about an hour. It's beautiful in the sanctuary. So, if anybody would like to go.
All right. All right.
Oh, maybe it was last week.
I
Yeah.
think it was last
I'm
week.
reading it right now. I'm looking at this last week.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and today they have a new calendar also, the church.
Peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let this begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The love of God holds us.
The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are,